You're listening to Off the Vine with Kaitlyn Bristowe.
Hey, Vinos, real quick, if you are listening right now, which obviously you are or you wouldn't be hearing this, can you hit the subscribe or follow button on whatever platform you're on? Please. That one simple thing helps more than you even realize. It allows me to keep growing on this podcast and making these episodes the best they can possibly be, obviously for you. That's the only favor I'm going to ever ask, okay? It truly means the world to me. Thank you. Now let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Vine. I have two very special guests today that need no introduction, but I'm gonna give them one anyways. They have lived their lives in front of America for over a decade now, starring in the hit show Chrisley Knows Best. We've watched them as parents, we've watched them as entrepreneurs and entertainers, but the last couple of years, obviously, their story has took a dramatic turn, to say the least. So after facing very public trials and time away from their family, they are back home, they are reunited, and they're just ready to share the next chapter of their lives with a lot of life lessons that they've taken along the way. So I am honored to have Todd and Julie Chrisley here with me today on Off the Vine. Okay, so I want to start like back at the beginning, like before cameras, before reality TV, everything, before all the headlines, before basically how the Chrisleys became the Chrisleys. So how did that show even come to be? Like, were you guys in the spotlight? Did you know famous people and they were like, you guys need a show? How did it happen?
No, we were not. We were not in the spotlight. Julie owned a real estate company in Georgia, in Alpharetta. And I owned an outsourced company of real estate, and our life had always been real estate.
Yeah.
And we had done very well in real estate.
Yeah.
And someone approached us. I was at Fashion Week in New York with my daughters, and someone approached me and said, "We've just been watching you. You know, I am a producer and would love to talk to you about doing a show." And this was after like 3 days of us being with her.
Yeah.
And there in Fashion Week. One thing led to another. It was conversations that continued for about 2 weeks. And she said, can we come and do a sizzle reel?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what that
You're like,
was.
what the shit is
right.
a sizzle reel?
What is a
Yeah.
sizzle reel? And I said, well, what is that? And she said, we would just follow you around, you know, for a couple of days. And she said, and just see what we get.
Yeah.
And so I went to Julie, and Julie, who was the consummate, kind, sweet human being, just never wants to hurt anyone's feelings. Yeah. And she said, well, you can't tell her no. I mean, just do it. Just do it. She said, it's going to be just a couple of days and we'll be, you know, you'll be done with it.
But it wasn't something that we ever thought about doing. It wasn't like we were like, okay, we're going to try to get a reality show. There was none of that.
Right.
Like we had great careers. We were living our best life.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so we agreed to it. Mm-hmm. They came and they filmed it for like 3 days, 4 days.
Yeah, maybe just a few days.
We didn't hear anything else, you know, for, I guess it was about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I get a phone call from her and this woman and Adam Greener, who was...
I know Adam Greener.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Adam called and said, we would like to fly to Atlanta to meet with you. Mm-hmm. And I said, for what? And he said, we have a show. We've pitched the sizzle and we pitched it to 10 networks and we've got 9 offers.
Wow.
And I said, what? I said, we're not doing a show. And he said, that's what, Mr. Chrisley, I just want to come. I'm willing to fly. I'll get on the plane today.
No way.
And so I said, well, we're actually coming to LA tomorrow. And because we had a home out there at the time as well. And so we went out there and we met at the Polo Lounge.
Yeah.
And all the kids were with us. And he said, we have submitted the sizzle. He said, a sizzle's normally no more than like 4 to 6 minutes. And he says, and yours is so good. He said, we left it at 12. And he said, and we think it's the first episode of the show.
No way.
And so long story short, we get into negotiations. And I remember, you know, I wanted the show to be on E because I felt like that, you know, look at what Chris had done with the Kardashians.
Right.
And we didn't have the blowjob. Right. So, I mean, I'm just thinking, you know. And so I just said, well, I want it to be on E. So I remember having a phone conversation with Bonnie Hammer, who was the head of programming. She was the CEO of USA Network. I remember getting on a phone call with her and Adam and one of my attorneys. And she said, well, Mr. Chrisley, she said, you have actually done something that has not happened in my career. And I said, what is that? And she said, you've got 3 of my networks bidding against each other.
No way.
And I said, well, that's a good thing then, right? And she said, well, for you it is. Yeah. For us, it's not.
Yeah.
And she said, tell me why you want to be on E. And I said, well, look at what Kris Jenner has done with her family on E.
Built a huge empire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those girls are some of the hardest working girls that I've ever known in my life.
Yeah.
And Kris is to be credited for a lot of that. And she said, well, yeah, but you're different. Y'all are a different family.
You're like the very Southern family of the Kardashians.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what they said.
Yeah.
And so, she said, I want you to be on USA Network. Well, I had never watched USA. And I said, all I knew was E because of my girls watching the Kardashians.
Right.
And I said, but I don't, she said, Mr. Chrisley, here's what I'll do. If you will agree to come to USA, she says, then I will air the original episodes on USA. And the next night, we will air them on E.
Perfect.
Yeah.
She says, and then we're going to air them on Bravo.
Oh my
And she
gosh.
said, so we're going to see where your footing is.
What year is this?
This was in 2013, 12, 13.
Yeah, 12
Okay.
or 13, I think.
Yeah.
And,
early 13, I think.
And so she was as good as her word.
Yeah.
And the show ended up being one of the biggest shows on USA Network. It was WWE and Us.
Oh my gosh.
And
Go figure, right?
Go figure.
Match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Right. That's so. Do you remember like a moment where you're like, okay, we're like famous, like people are recognizing us? Like, did you ever feel that way?
I never felt famous.
No.
I mean, I think that we certainly knew that we were being recognized.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
always say about reality TV. I'm like, I don't feel famous. I feel like people can recognize me
Right,
from a show.
exactly.
Yes.
Because I think that, I think to say that we're famous, I mean, I think you're famous if you win an Academy Award or you've won you win an Emmy.
Yeah.
I think that's famous.
Well, I feel like the definitions also changed because now like TikTok people can be
Yeah.
famous. Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If
But
you're
I think-
recognizable, they think you're famous.
Yeah, and I just think that term is used so loosely that it's
know.
lost value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree because I always thought of famous as like the Brad Pitts.
That's
you
right,
know?
that's right.
And then
Meryl
the
Streep,
A-list.
yeah.
That's right.
exactly.
Yeah.
The A-list. So whenever people are like, oh, you're famous, like people from my small town back home and they're like,
Right.
you're famous. I'm like, I'm really not. I'm the exact same person. I have done nothing special except be myself.
Be yourself.
And people recognize me for that.
But that's a beautiful part about reality television is that you don't have to study a script.
Yeah.
You don't have to learn your lines.
Yeah.
Right.
You can just be you.
It's nice.
So in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, I look at reality television and just in reality in general, that which is better? Someone falling in love with you because of the character that you played
Right.
and then falling in love with that character or actually falling in love with you for being you.
Totally. And
Yeah.
even vice versa, like somebody hating me for just being me, I'm like okay with that
Right.
at some point
Me
because you're
too.
like, well, I always say like this line from Kurt Cobain actually when he was like, I'd rather be hated for who I am than liked for somebody that I'm not.
That's right.
And
Right.
I live by that line all the time because I think it's great to be polarizing. I think it's great to have like people have opinions and maybe not agree with you because I'm like, you know what? I probably wouldn't like you either.
Well, and we just did something the other. Oh, I was doing another interview yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yesterday, and I was asked, what is the difference? How do you feel, with so many opinions?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think that it's a beautiful thing. I says, it's a beautiful world. I says, when we can all have an opinion and
Yeah.
be respectful of it, and you don't have to agree with the way that I believe. I don't
Right.
have to agree with the way you believe.
Yeah.
But we do have to agree that each of us have the right to believe what we believe.
That's why I get so fired up in like the world of politics and religion. I'm like, why are we so angry at what somebody else believes?
Right.
If that is
And
something
how
that's
boring
important
would
to
it
them.
be for us to
If we all thought the
the
same.
same?
It would
Like,
be
I
terrible.
don't want to be in a room. I don't have friends that, necessarily believe the way that I
Same.
believe on all kinds of
Everything.
things.
Yeah.
And I just think that's what makes it.
But I feel like you guys, your whole family just has that kind of outlook on life, which does also make for good TV. But TV is also business, which I
That's
feel like
right.
you both understand both sides of it, like
Right.
how to make good TV, but also the business
Right.
side of television. So did you notice that pretty quickly? Like when you watched the first season back, were you like, oh, that's us? Like they're portraying us pretty accurately. Did you feel like there was some editing that was happening? And you're like, I get it, it's TV.
I think it was the first 3 episodes that I started stepping in and saying, no, wait a minute.
Really?
we're not doing that. Or
good for
that's,
you.
That's not who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were things that were portrayed that weren't
That
they
They
sensationalized.
sensationalize.
You know,
exactly.
they took
That's
a little
what they
bit
do,
of
yeah.
this.
You know, because you want those drama-filled moments.
Yeah.
You know, you want those gotcha moments.
Yeah.
But we try to keep that to a minimum.
Yeah. How do you keep your boundaries with that and your family while also knowing how to make good TV?
I think that you have to truly be true to who you are.
Yeah, I agree.
And you cannot waver on your core value system.
Yeah.
And remember, we're parents first.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're still protecting
Yeah.
our children in the midst of all of this.
Yeah.
And
And I think even we told them, I mean, from day one, you know, remember, if you don't put it out there, it's not out there.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if you put it out there, it's fair game.
And,
Yeah,
and the
true.
kids would
And they've
sometimes
had to learn that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they would sometimes get upset. Can you believe that I said, no. Production didn't do shit.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
You gave them that to serve to the world.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
when you stop giving it to them, they don't have it to give back.
Right.
That's right.
But it's so hard because I'm always in like either this side of it interviewing or on the other side. Like I always want to give a good interview and I always want to like give them good material. And
Right.
then sometimes I'm like, I said too much. That's like a memoir by Kaitlyn Bristowe. I've said too much. But I'm like, well, I want to be true to myself. And I've always
right.
been just like a total open book in my life. I'm not shy about any topic or conversation.
Nor am
And
I.
Right.
yeah. And I think I do think that's what they look for when they're looking for people to be on TV. Like obviously on Bachelor World, we're going to get the villains and the people who like are truly there for love and the people that are just, I was there for just a good time. I was like,
Right.
what's this experience going to be like? If I find love, great. If I make good TV, great. Like I'm just
Right.
going to be myself. I want everybody to watch and say, oh, that's Kaitlyn.
Right.
You know, I
Right.
think that's
Yeah.
really important. I feel like, you know, that is polarizing to people, but love your family, have opinions on your family. You're all very true to yourselves.
You know, when I was at my summer camp for 28 months,
Summer camp.
the,
My friend's dad called it college.
right,
Yeah.
busted summer camp. But I found that one of the nicest things that I've ever had said to me was, you know, you're exactly the same person that's on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have people say that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just there, but whether you're in the grocery store or whatever, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, you're the same way that you are on TV. Yeah. I am.
Good.
That's the way it's supposed
Yeah.
to be.
That is a
I
good
had
thing.
I had one come up to me the other day and go to me and Chase, and she goes, "Y'all are so much better looking in person."
Yes.
And so I walked away, and Chase goes, "That was so nice." I said, "Was it?"
I know. Like,
I
oh
don't-
my
I
gosh, you
don't-
look so much younger. I'm
Right.
like, oh.
I'm like,
okay.
no, I don't know that
Thank
was a
you.
compliment.
Yeah.
I think that was a
all the
side-handed
time.
one.
People have said that to me too, and I'm like, well, do I look bad on TV or do I
Right.
look worse in photos? And I'm like, but I guess I would rather the other way around or this way around, you
That's
know,
right.
where they're like, oh, you look, instead of being like, oh God, you look better in your photos. I guess those people just don't say it to us. But
That's right.
if you could go back in time, would you change the way you did anything on TV? I know that's a hard question because I personally am probably the same way as you, where I go, well, we wouldn't have learned all these lessons. We wouldn't be where we are without it. And
I try not to look back and say I would have done that differently, because I think there's always something you would do differently.
You're right.
You know,
Right.
now that you can look back at it.
Yeah.
But at the time,
Yeah.
I would like to think that we made the best decisions that we could make based on the situation at hand.
yeah,
Right.
I agree. There's the benefit of hindsight is you can look back and be like, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but you can't.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you have to accept everything that you've done and that's
right.
happened. And
That's right.
you've just raised such strong, great, like Savannah, I'm like, if anyone is going to be in my corner, I want it to be her.
Yes.
Gosh.
That seems to be the country's general consensus
Yes.
right
Well,
now.
And
Yes.
she's so smart. Like, I was so impressed by her, and we'll get into that, but I was just so impressed by her, even just the first time I met her, just how she carries herself, how she interviews people, how she speaks up, and how I love loud people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Right.
because I am also a loud person.
Right.
And I think it's important to have people like that. And it was just really cool to see her fight for you guys, but also just who she is in general. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you know, it should, from one woman to another, you should cheer her on.
Totally.
She should cheer you on.
Yeah.
Right.
Because my girls were raised that I didn't place limits on them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they wanted, Savannah would always say, well, I can throw that football. I can do, and I said, you're not throwing footballs. That's not what you're doing. Because here we are in the South and we're raising a little girl.
Right.
And I remember her just dropping her head down. And in that moment when she did that, my heart broke. And I said, do you think you can do it? Yes, Daddy, I can. I said, then go do it. And from that point on, she went and did.
Yeah.
And anything she signed up for, that was a big thing with Julie. If you sign up for it, you're completing it.
Yeah.
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 So anything they signed up for, she made them complete and see it through. And when she wanted to start riding horses, I said, I don't want you on a horse. You could get hurt. And she cried and she says, but Dad, I'm not going to get hurt. And if I do, it won't be bad. And I remember, because she was, 8 years old?
Yeah.
I remember taking her to the barn that day.
Yeah.
And she thought she was just going by to feed the horses.
Yeah.
And when she got to the stall, it had Care Bear's name. That was her horse's name. And I said, she said, oh, we have the new one. And I said, yeah. And I remember Christina saying, that's your pony.
Oh.
And she just looked at me and she says, no way. And I said, yes.
That's
And
better
so
than a
Christina
car.
showed her tack trunk and all of her stuff. And she ended up being number 1 and number 2 in hunter jumping forever.
She's just got that grit, huh?
She does. And, I think that she's suffered heartache. She has suffered breakups.
A lot, yeah.
And, we lost Nick, who was her
Yes.
former fiance. And that was hard on her. And she did not it happened at a time where she could not truly process it the way she needed to,
Right.
because we were not here
Right.
to help her.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now she's kind of working through that.
Yeah.
And so I watch her every day, and the level of amazement and pride
I bet.
that I have in her. She is just a good, decent, honorable human being.
Yeah.
And when you can say that about your child and your daughter, I feel like that's a blessing.
I mean, I love hearing you guys talk about your kids too, because it's the pride, but also you're like, that is a testament to parents as well. And that's got to feel really good. And you get proud of yourself as well, because you're like, I'm so proud of this person and I'm proud of myself for raising these kinds of decent human beings who are just like,
Absolutely.
and she like trying to make a difference in the world and just standing up for what's right. And like, I feel like I heard you say in an interview, watching your child step into their purpose is like the best thing a parent
Absolutely.
could watch.
It is. I
And
can't imagine
absolutely.
that.
It's like all that hard work. Because it is a lot of
Yes.
work. And
Yes.
I feel like
gosh.
we've put in a lot of work and a lot of years. And to see that happen for your child, it
Yeah.
is like the ultimate, like, okay.
Well,
It was all worth it.
She's involved, with Turning Point and, Charlie Kirk, and she was very close with him. And she's, in a battle right now with a local school about, letting these children worship and what have you. And she was on the phone with me yesterday. She was telling me about a situation. And I said, see, and right there is why we went through what we went through.
Yeah.
I said, God had us
Yeah.
to go through what we went through so you could be strong enough today, because you would not have the platform. Because, listen, she had a huge platform before this happened. But the platform that she has today is much different. She's not, yes, she was a former reality star. But Savannah is in her own right now.
Yeah.
Savannah walks into rooms with heads of countries and, and congressmen and senators. And, I don't know that I necessarily am proud of that at certain times. But,
Right.
she was able to go into rooms that she wasn't invited to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And make her, voice heard.
Yes. And I told
Absolutely.
her, I said, you would have never had that kind of strength to do what you did had we not had God not placed us in the fire, in the pit.
Yeah.
And I says, and because of that, we've all come out stronger.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
that's something that I've really seen from just like social media. Everyone has their headlines or whatever, but what I've seen is like the strongest family come back together, and I think a lot of people would have pity parties or feel sorry for themselves, or, especially with the platform, maybe like had the wrong things to say or behave in a certain way. But you guys have really made it like this happened for a reason. Obviously at the time that's hard to say, but it
Yes.
happened for a reason. And this is why we're stronger from it. And you can see why, because I think a lot of times people have, I even do this where people always tell me like, God can handle you being mad, because I'll get so mad and I'll go, why? Like, why would if there's a God, why is this happening?
Right.
And you're able to have the why.
Right.
Well, and and I said,
And why not?
That's right.
You know, like what makes us any better than anybody else to
Yeah.
have to go through hard things, to have to struggle,
That's
to
exactly
have to.
right.
But do you think being in the spotlight, they were using you guys as an example?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, the Inspector General in the state of Georgia has completed their investigation, and in their report, they state that based on the information that we have uncovered, the Chrisleys were targeted, and I'm quoting, the Chrisleys were targeted due to their celebrity status.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's in the Inspector General's report.
So, and then I guess this is a silly question then, because I would be like, well, are you in any way like, oh, we should have never done TV, this all wouldn't have happened? Or you really are in a place where you're like, I see why this all happened?
I don't really have a lot of regrets.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there are days that you're like, okay, you know, if we hadn't done this, this
Right.
would not have
Right.
happened. Or you would think that it wouldn't have happened, you know.
But, if you're
But
doing...
you don't know.
Right. But, when you think about it, Kaitlyn, should you not be able in this country to pursue your passion or to pursue your career without fear of retribution?
Yeah.
Without fear of being targeted? Mm-hmm. Should you not be able to love who you love without fear of being targeted?
I know. It's you see it happen a lot with people getting made examples of.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like the other side of it where the other day I got pulled over. I was saying this before we started recording, but I was like, oh my gosh, talk about white, pretty, famous privilege, because he was like, he wanted a photo with me, he let me go.
Yeah.
I deserved a big slap on the wrist. I was going quite fast, and I was like, oh my gosh, because of my status, he was like, oh my God, my girlfriend watches this, and oh my God, this, can we take a photo? And I was
Right.
like, oh my gosh. So it's hard when it's the other way around.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and listen, I've talked about that, and we both have.
Yeah.
That, I'm very involved in prison reform now.
Oh.
And I know that from where I was treated entirely different
Yeah.
than the other men that were there.
Interesting.
And especially young men of color.
Yeah.
Like when I got there, they were waiting for me. They walked me in.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go through all the processes that everyone else had to
Really?
go through. I had people in the prison camp, correctional officers that asked, can you take a picture with me?
Really?
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
And I did take these photographs with them. But I watched how these other men were treated.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, I call it social privilege. You
Yeah.
have social privilege.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
And we certainly have had social privilege.
Yeah.
And in my interview yesterday, I said that, to whom much is given, much is required. And that, yes, I'm a Republican and I'm proud of that. But I'm kind of down the middle. I don't believe that our country is served well by swinging all the way to the right, and I don't believe it's served well by swinging all the way to the left. But we all do need to coexist.
Yes.
And I said yesterday in that interview, I said, I just want to be kind.
Yeah.
I want my family to be kind.
Yeah.
And I said, and
Treat people well.
right,
Yeah.
treat people well.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to judge you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where Christianity gets a bad rap, because
know.
you want to sit and say, oh well, I'm a Christian, but then in the same breath as you've identified as a Christian, you're tearing someone down with the words that you're saying, or you are judging their lifestyle or the choices that they've made or the bad decisions that have happened in their life. And Julie and I have always been very good about saying, be careful about spitting up in the air, because you don't know where it's going to land.
Yeah.
And when you have children,
Yeah.
You really don't.
you don't know where it's going to land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go out here and talk poorly about, well, I don't believe in this and I don't believe in that, because I actually don't. I think I know where our children stand on the vast majority of the topics, but they're still very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And regardless, we're going to support them.
Exactly.
course.
Regardless of what my children stood with me in my darkest hour. So I'm certainly going to stand with them regardless of what their decisions are.
Yeah, absolutely.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year BetterHelp is saying a huge thank you to the real MVPs, therapists. Just think about it. Behind millions of people taking steps forward on their mental health journeys, there's a therapist who showed up asked the right questions, created a safe space, or helped celebrate a tiny win that actually changed everything. Now, I've had those moments myself where just talking it out with someone made me feel lighter, clearer, and honestly just less alone. And that is the power of therapy. It really doesn't have to be a giant breakthrough every session, even though those happen. Sometimes it's just knowing that you've got someone in your corner. BetterHelp has over 30,000 licensed therapists and has already helped more than 5 million people worldwide. That makes me emotional. They match you with someone based on your needs, and if it's not a fit, you can switch anytime. Plus, it's all online, which makes starting just so much easier. So this World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners are going to get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Vine. That's betterhelp.com/Vine. I need to confess something, okay? I think I'm in a toxic relationship with all of my old socks. Because ever since Bombas came into my life, I literally cannot look. I can't even look at my other socks the same way. They feel like sad little X's compared to the cushy, cozy, treat me right Bombas vibe. So here's the deal. These aren't just socks. They've got merino wool that's is it chilly? I got you. Is it warm? Still got you. They're Sherpa-lined slippers. Let's just say I may or may not have canceled plans to stay home in them. We're going to go with I may have. And I regret nothing. But the real swoon moment is every time you buy something, Bombas donates an item to someone experiencing homelessness. We're talking over 150 million donations already made. Comfort for you, comfort for someone else. It is a win-win. And if for some reason you're not 100% obsessed, they've got a happiness guarantee. How cute is that? So ditch those old socks, upgrade your life with Bombas. Head over to bombas.com/Vine and use code VINE for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/Vine, code VINE at checkout. What is the difference between prison and jail?
Well, jail is you're going downtown to the jail.
Yeah.
But if you're going to federal prison, it is not like the jail.
Yeah.
There's depending on where you are, where I was, it was 370 guys.
Okay.
You were what?
Somewhere around anywhere from 150 to 250.
Right.
Okay.
In the jail, you might have 12 people.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Jail's usually a shorter term, a county jail. It's usually a county is
Okay.
what it is.
It's like where you would have gone had you been driving and got pulled over, you would have gone to the county jail.
I always had that question because I remember I interviewed Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore, and he made a comment about how different they are, and then I forgot what he said, so I was just going to throw that out there and ask. But when you're experiencing that, day one, I know you got a bit of a different treatment, but what are you feeling going in? Walking in, you're this is my new reality. Are you feeling I have hope, there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel? Are you this is my darkest day? What are you feeling?
For me, I was devastated. I was sad. I was separated from Todd, from my kids. But I think our situation had gone on for so long.
Since 2012.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So when I walked through those doors, I was like, okay, this is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is what I know I have to do. And there was almost this
a sigh of relief.
a sigh of
Wow.
relief.
Because it was over. The unknown was over.
Yeah,
Yes,
fair.
the unknown was over. And I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And yes, there were hard times and hard days, but it was you could see it was going to end at some point.
And, everyone handles it differently. That's the way that Julie handled it. I was leaving the moment I walked in.
Really?
Yeah. In my mind, I'm not staying here. This is not where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And so every day when I got up, that was the day that I could possibly leave.
Okay.
That's how I lived.
How long were you in there?
28 months.
28 months.
So
My
almost
gosh.
2.5 years.
Do you end up, after that amount of time, do you almost end up feeling a bit of sadness leaving there? Because you're I made so many friendships.
You do make a lot of
make
friendships.
these friendships, and and Julie and I both have maintained these relationships and will for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to go out here and meet someone at a restaurant, and and you sit and have a glass of wine, or you're talking and whatever, and you're like, okay, we're friends.
Yeah.
Versus going to war.
Yeah.
And being in the trenches with someone.
Yeah.
And when you're sharing food and you're sharing a living quarter, and you're listening to the horror of their stories.
Yeah.
I don't have anyone my story doesn't compare
No.
to anyone that would come and sit down and talk to me.
Right.
And so I can remember, I would say, God, thank you for letting them give me their testimony, because it just reinforces in me how blessed I am that I've never gone through this.
Yeah.
So
because and for women it's different. We there was most of the time around 200 women there, but we were in one building. So, like he said, you're eating, you're sleeping beside someone else. You're watching television, you're working, you're doing all these things. So it's not like a friend that you'd see once a week or once every couple weeks or whatever. You're with them
it's like a
every
sibling.
single
It becomes
day.
like a sibling relationship because you're there every single day.
This is not a comparison, but I think about being in the Bachelor Mansion. Like, we had no phone, no TV, no communication with it. We couldn't read books. We just only had each other. You're forced to be in this house with these people. You don't know them from any background, and you really do bond with certain people. And some of it, you sure call it trauma bonding. Some of it, you're just like, wow, we would be friends in the outside world.
Right.
And some people, you're like, I'm going to put up with this because I have to live with you, and I'm going to see the good in this.
Right.
Like, there's so many different relationships.
Well, I think all of what you just said is what exists.
Yes. What is a big misconception that happens in prison?
Well, we were both in camps, so there was nothing that happened in our camp.
There were no
there
locks.
was no violence. There was no locks. There was,
literally, if you wanted to walk out the door,
you could walk out
and
the
get
door.
in a car and leave. Now they're going to come after you, but they're
they're not. The marshal is.
Yeah, the marshals are, but. You could, like, there was no locks.
Okay.
Like, there was you're not locked in anywhere. You're not, it's just not that way.
And I was at a decommissioned military base for the Navy. So it was it was barracks.
Yeah.
It was like barracks where the military officers stay.
Yeah, yeah. So did you find like routine there? Did you work out? Did you find a way to eat healthy? Like, how did you stay?
Eating healthy is not easy there.
I was
going to
say.
We, again, handled it very differently.
I broke the rules. She didn't.
I worked every day.
Yeah.
Like, that was my thing because it gave me a sense of
purpose,
routine, of purpose. It helped my time go by faster because it's like, okay, I'm working Monday through Friday, then I would have a visit on the weekends and then I'm back to another week, And so for me, that's how I got through it.
Yeah.
He, on the other hand, was a little different.
My camp was different because, again, men and women are very, very different.
Yeah, yeah.
Women tell everything. Men have been trained from early on, by their
Wired
fathers.
different,
Men don't talk. Men don't talk. And so, yes, there were cell phones that you're not supposed to have, but they were everywhere. It was like a Verizon store there.
Really?
And you had staff members that approached me and said, I can get you food from the street, if you want it. And so, if I ordered, pizza or Chick-fil-A or whatever for all the people in my dorm or in my room, they would bring it in. And so whatever that was, let's just say it was $1,000, they got paid $1,000.
Got it.
And so I had Chick-fil-A, Pizza Hut, Culver's, and
I
she had no street food for 28 months.
Were you like comparing notes when you got out? Like, I
Well,
ate this. You're like,
I never saw a cell phone, never saw outside food.
But tell her why you didn't see a cell phone.
It just wasn't there.
No, it was there because you said
maybe
that
one
because
or two,
everyone was
but-
worried about them telling on each other.
Whereas the men tend to kind of come together.
That's true. It's a brotherhood.
Them against everyone
That's
else.
right. It's a brotherhood.
now, that would be nice if women did that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it would.
Yeah,
It
that
would.
would be really nice.
Yeah.
But women have not been conditioned to do that.
Right.
Women have been conditioned to be pitted against each other.
Always. I mean, it was my season of The Bachelorette. They made 2 bachelorettes go against each other, and the men had to decide who they wanted to be the bachelorette. Okay, Halloween is coming up, and if you're like me, you want your pets to be part of the fun too, without any chaos, finding costumes that actually fit, toys that last, and the treats that they love. And that is why I always turn to Chewy. I love Chewy, and I love that I can get everything in one place, whether it's food, treats, toys, even supplies for horses, which
is on my bucket list, on my dream list. Birds, not on my dream list. Fish, reptiles, and other small pets. And it all shows up at my door in a day or two, which is a total lifesaver when you realize you forgot something last minute. Now, Chewy also makes pet health very simple. I can refill prescriptions, grab flea meds, get advice from their team, and now they're expanding in-person vet clinics too, which is awesome. So summer's over, but fleas and ticks do not take a break, trust me. So I always get my year-round protection delivered right to my door. I always make sure I do my research on that protection as well. And what I really love is Chewy has sizes for everything, from teacup pups to my bigger dog. And if something doesn't work, their 100% satisfaction guarantee means I can return it, no questions asked. So this Halloween, make your pets part of the celebration. Shop costumes, toys, and treats with Chewy. Go to chewpanions.chewy.com/offthevine-podcast to get $20 off your first order. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/offthevine-podcast to get $20 off your first order. chewpanions.chewy.com/offthevine-podcast. Okay, so if you've ever noticed your hair thinning or shedding, you know how annoying it is. Like, Claire, can we just have normal hair for one day, once maybe? I don't know. I've tried so many products that promise results, and honestly, nothing worked until I started using Nutrafol. Everybody's heard me talk about this on Instagram, on my Instagram lives, on my podcast. Let me tell you, it really is different. Nutrafol is physician formulated, clinically tested, and dermatologists actually recommend it. With over 1.5 million people who trust it to help with thinning, shedding, and just generally having healthier hair, the science behind it is totally legit. They don't just test ingredients, they test the actual final formulas to make sure it really does improve growth, quality, shedding, and texture. So adding it into your routine is ridiculously easy. No prescription, automated deliveries keep you on track, and free shipping. And if you go for a subscription, you can save up to 20%. Plus, you get one-on-one consultations with the naturopathic doctor and even a Headspace meditation membership. I love that. I use that every day. Can you imagine a whole hair wellness package delivered to your door? And then just like meditating when it comes to you. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code VINE. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code VINE. That's Nutrafol, promo code VINE. I wanted to ask, do you think that media made this so much worse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We were the darlings of television.
Yeah.
I mean, our show was one of the highest rated shows on television. And in this country, we love to build people up just to tear them down. The only thing that we
Yes.
love better than building someone up is to tear them down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
especially now.
Yeah.
yes, and the good thing for me, the bad thing for the people that did it is that I have a long memory. So, when those offers come in now, I'd really like to sit down with Mr. Chrisley. I want to have this, and I'm like, Alexa, go look at this interview that was done in 2019.
Obsessed.
By this person.
Yeah.
And this person is not allowed to interview us.
Love receipts.
And I'm good with. I listen. I am petty about certain things.
Oh, same.
And if you screwed me or my family over, my memory is long and for life.
Yes. I am very petty in that way, but I think that's okay.
It has served me
It's
well because
accountability,
it's
too,
accountability.
you know?
That's
Like,
exactly
just
right.
you can't just go out here and say things to people. And
Well, you can, but you shouldn't.
But you also have to suffer the repercussions of it.
I did the same thing. I remember there was a girl, I can't even remember her name right now, but she was on, I think this is like Betch's podcast, and she spoke horribly about me when I was on the show. And years later, she is trying to get me on her podcast, and I just keep saying
I would
no.
have gone.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I ended up doing it. So I was like, after years and years, I was like, you know what? Put her on my podcast. And I said, the reason I've been saying no is because I heard the way you speak about me. And she was like,
Good.
Now that right there is a Todd move.
Yeah.
That's a Todd move.
that.
Todd move. I do a lot of Todd moves.
That's it. That's it.
Because I'm like, call it passive aggressive or call it accountability.
I call it accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to be messy, I can get messier. I'm
I'll
not.
go lower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. No, I am. If they go low, I can get lower.
I'm the exact same, and I live for it. It actually, people are like, oh, does it really make you feel better?
It
Yes,
does.
it does.
It does. It makes me
absolutely
feel
does.
great.
Me too. Me too. Were there things that surprised you, like once you came out and you're like, I get to sleep in my own bed again. I get to eat the
Yes.
food I want. Like, I heard you say, you would judge a book by the cover with guys with tattoos. My daughter's not going to date him. But what was your perspective like just on, I guess, humans now coming out of it or life?
Oh, it's absolutely a very humbling experience.
Yeah.
And I do believe that God allowed us to go through this because God has a purpose for everything. And there's a purpose in your pain. It's up to us to figure out what that purpose is. And, I think that for me, one of the biggest things was I'm now surrounded by men that would have never been in my sphere of my life. A lot of these were younger kids that were coming in from marijuana and things like that, and who had no father figure in their life.
Yeah.
And those young men became my kids, and I love them dearly, and they will be in my life, I hope, for the rest of my life. And I hope that they will want me in theirs. But several of them were, as I would say, covered from asshole to elbow in tattoos. And that's just never been my thing. Because when I was growing up, my parents always said that if you had tattoos, that's a woman of the night. My mother would always say, now that's a woman of the night. And I said, what does that mean? She said, she's easy. You don't ever get tied up with a woman that's got a tattoo. Well, now you're saying this to, a 15-year-old boy. I'm looking for the tattoos at this point. And when the kids were there, well, I say kids are grown men, but I have a saying, people used to ask me this, if something happened to you and Julie, what would be the age that you would date? And I said, well, if I can make you, I can't date you. So, if you could be my child, I'm not dating you. But, these young men could be my children. They could be my sons. And I remember saying, why did you do all this? And this is the God's honest truth. At least 90% of them regretted it.
Really?
Yeah. There was only maybe 10% of them that said, well, I would like to have this one removed.
Yeah.
Or I'd like to have this one removed. But this one has a purpose. This one has a special meaning.
Yeah.
But 90% of them wanted it removed.
Really?
Right.
And so that's what I'm doing. As they get out, I'm sponsoring them to, if they want to have them removed, we remove them.
That's awesome.
And
But I do think it brings just such a light to people that you, like you said, you would maybe never even have ever been in the same room, the same area, the same situation. And I have met some amazing women.
I bet.
And, women that I will be friends with forever.
Yeah.
Again, because you lived so closely with them.
And no one can
the
understand.
relationships were just, you develop them quicker. And I feel like they're just...
I just think they're just stronger. I think they're stronger and they're more real because, again, they're forged in the fire.
Yeah.
That
And
makes sense.
and I feel like that my life is so much richer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
the texture of my life became so much richer because of the relationships that were formed with these men.
Right.
And what about marriage? Did that make you both stronger in your marriage as well?
It did. And it was hard because we didn't even get to speak for 2.5 years. So
You didn't speak a word.
we were able to email, but the email was very sporadic, and it was, it would take sometimes 2-3 days for me to get an email or him to get an email. So we did not speak.
Wow.
So it was a lot, and I think people don't realize that,
Well, that's when you spend every day, all day
right.
together, talking
keep
every day.
in mind, we had worked together.
Every
We did
single
the
day of our
show for
life.
10 years.
Right.
We were working, we were
So
filming the show.
What
and-
would you say was the biggest challenge? Like, what was the hardest part of, obviously, like the obvious, not talking to each other, but
Right.
what was it that made that where you're like, people don't understand? What would you want them to
I
understand?
think we're parents. We were still raising kids,
Yeah.
and even adult kids, they still
still
need their
need raising.
parents,
Absolutely.
And it has always been us against them, because we've always been outnumbered.
Yeah.
So it's always been us against them. So not being able to talk and collaborate and say, okay, how are we going to handle this situation? Because you do try to parent as much as you can. Now, for me, it was a lot harder because I had 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's it.
So you get we got 300 minutes a month. So that's it. So you have to, at that point, decide which child you're going to talk
Right.
to, who needs you the most that day.
Yeah.
And she had that. I
Yeah.
didn't because I was participating in the usage of a cell
So,
phone.
Right.
So I stayed in constant contact.
you know,
with
it
each
was
other.
hard. You know, it was
Yeah.
that was really hard, and just that, you know, he's my person. So
Yeah.
not having your person there when you're having a bad day,
Yeah.
when you're having a good day, when, you know, a birthday comes or a holiday, you know, those are big deals at our house.
Totally.
They've always been.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part for me.
That makes
And
sense.
you know, for me, I give glory to God for this because my mind is so strong. And I remember the first date that we ever had. I remember, you know, the first kiss. I mean, I'm the one who keeps the first ticket stubs from the movie that we went to.
Yeah, cute.
And so I remember everything about our relationship. So those memories
Kept you going.
kept me going. And I remember there was a magazine that, because Savannah kept me with, you know, magazines coming and whatever. And I remember, and I've never told this, I remember getting this magazine and it had Julie's, you know how when you open a magazine, it lets you smell a fragrance?
Yeah.
And it was Julie's fragrance.
Oh my gosh, and smells do wild things to the memory.
Yes. And I literally remember taking that and rubbing it on my pillow.
Yeah.
So that I could smell it every night. And then I put it on the collar of my jacket so that I could smell it.
So cute.
And I never felt, as oddly as this is going to be, or sound, I never felt separated from her because spiritually and emotionally, I was with her every second of every day.
That's nice.
And so I didn't have that separation anxiety because she was still with me.
Wow.
And I always knew that there was a purpose.
Yeah.
That God, I know there's a purpose behind this pain. Mm-hmm. And I just need for you to help me live long enough to see that purpose.
Yeah. So then what was readjusting to real life? When was it like an immediate, I see the purpose? Like what was readjusting back to life together with your family? What did that look like?
You know, I think we adjusted well. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I did not have some readjustment period, because I did.
I bet.
It was a lot, you know, and I think because, I mean, I pulled into the garage and there were cameras right there. So
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
it
they're
was-
probably waiting.
it was, you know, they were waiting.
They were camped out.
And
Oh, yeah.
we started filming the moment that I stepped
They
out
were
of the
negotiating
car.
our contract as we were walking out of the prisons.
Yeah.
Wait, for a new show.
Well, the show was already going. Savannah had already
Got
started
it.
the new show.
Okay,
This,
got it.
Chrisley's Back to Reality on
Yes.
Lifetime.
Yes.
And so they had filmed all but maybe 2 episodes of the 8. And it just so happened to be that we got pardoned and we got out of prison as they're finishing filming. So,
Yeah.
of course, the ultimate, you know,
Of course.
is to
Everybody
get
wants
us
to
when
see
we come
that.
out
Yeah.
of prison, because that just kind of completes the
Did
story.
you understand that in the moment?
Yeah, we
okay.
did. We did. But it was hard because I think everyone expects you just to, you know, step right back in and nothing to be different.
Right.
There's no way you can go through an experience like that and it not change you.
Well, if you do, then there's a problem.
Yeah. And then it was in vain.
Because-
if you don't change at all, then
Right.
all that pain and all that trauma, all that everything
nothing.
was just in for
Yeah.
no reason.
Exactly.
Right.
And I mean, it's, you know, I think that I try to relate it to when I'm asked that question to something that has gone on in the person's life that's asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had not gone through the relationships that you've gone through and had breakups
Mm-hmm.
and the things that has happened, would you really appreciate where you are now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes total
Yeah.
sense.
Because I mean, listen, you know, God has blessed us.
Yeah.
We've had a very wonderful life, and you know, we've made good money, and our kids grew up very privileged. And I look at it now. I mean, I was with Chase last night for dinner, and Chase was talking about this house that he wanted, and he says, "And Dad," he said, "This one here, I think you would like." And I said, "No, I don't want that."
Yeah.
I said, "We're going to build a ranch all on one level."
Yeah.
I said, "That's going to have everything your mother's ever wanted." And I said, "And that's where you're going to roll us out of."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't need the 40,000 square feet anymore."
Well, you learn, you know, you
I
live out of a
live.
locker.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you're there
truly.
where you are, where we were, and it wasn't a big locker. It was like mine was like a half locker.
Yeah,
and
I had 6
and that is
lockers.
that is your pantry.
Yeah.
That is your bedroom drawers.
Yeah.
That is your vanity. That is everything in there. And it had to fit in there, other than just a few clothes that were hanging.
So what was in your locker?
Well, let's see. On one side, I had food. I kept my food organized in little clear containers, clear bags, almost like a clear makeup
She's a
bag.
Martha disciple.
So it was like a clear makeup bag. So I kept like mine individually packed and organized. And then on this side, I had like my underwear, then my toiletries were down here, makeup, whatever. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. That's all you can have.
And what was in your 6 lockers?
Well, no, remember, some of my kids, they didn't have money for commissary or whatever.
Right.
So I just bought whatever they needed to eat because they needed to eat. And I'm not going to let anyone go hungry. So, I just kept those 6 lockers stocked with whatever needed to be in there so that everyone, no one went to bed hungry.
I think people don't realize too, because they think, okay, you hear people make those little comments. Oh, well, you're in jail. What do you need? There's nothing you need. You're getting 3 hots and a cot and whatever.
Right.
It's not that way.
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to be getting...
but the food is horrible. Nutrition is not on their...
Non-existent.
Yes, it's not on their list of priorities at all. And even just like your necessities, your deodorant, your toothpaste, your all that stuff, you have to buy that. So every person that is in there has to rely on somebody else to send that money in so that you can buy it. And you have $360 a month.
Oh,
now think about it.
No, I can't.
Right.
That goes
$360, and that's your shampoo, your conditioner, your hair gels, your
basic
deodorant, toothbrush, and then any food that you want. It's all included in that $360 a month.
So you learn to get
So
frugal
you learn
in
to
there.
you learn to live. Like you really learn like what you need.
Yeah.
What is. What we
Again,
say,
humbling.
our needs are not our needs.
Yeah.
They're our wants.
That's
Yeah,
right. And
that's so
and
true.
it is what you just said. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I don't want things.
Right.
I mean, I like my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we have a purpose, and that our purpose is to help those that have been left behind.
Yeah.
And my kids that are still there, I make sure money's on their commissary to where that they can eat and that they
that's
have what they
nice.
need, and I'm going to continue to help them.
How do you stay in touch with your friendships there? Do you go back
They
and
call
visit?
me. We go back and visit.
Yes,
and
we
go back and
both visited. He's not he has visited his facility because he actually spoke there, and then I
spoke
back
there and then shut it down.
I had been back to mine and had a visit with a friend there. And then they can email through the prison
And they can
email
call you
system.
on the phone
They can
there.
call. And then I've been able to connect with people as they leave too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which
that
is
makes
nice.
sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Everyone wanted to know how Grandma Faye has been doing with all of this because obviously
Nanny
she's a
Faye-
fan favorite.
Nanny
Yes.
Faye is great.
Nanny Faye
Yeah.
is
She is
great.
Because I feel like you get a lot from her, like the strength, the humor, the everything.
does.
Did she? How did she handle those 2.5 years?
It was heartbreaking because none of us would have ever thought this would have happened.
Right.
You have faith in your justice system. And so it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for us, but it was heartbreaking for her. And not for the reasons that you're going to think. Yes, she was devastated that I was going to be gone, but she was destroyed that Julie was going to be gone.
Really?
Because Julie is the daughter she never had and always
Yeah.
wanted. And they are very, very close.
Yeah.
And they talk on the phone 50 times a day.
Well, I was just there.
Yeah.
She had been sick before we went to prison, and I took her to every doctor's appointment and I was with her, and, if she needs something, she's calling me. She's calling me
Yeah.
before she's calling him.
Yeah.
So it was just, she was lost for a little bit,
Oh,
and it was
that must
hard.
have been so scary and hard that she was not feeling well before going in too.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had been diagnosed with bladder cancer.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so now she's clear and everything's good.
Great.
But she did have to go through treatments for that.
And also, she loved filming the show.
Yeah.
And that was her life
that
for
was her
10
purpose.
years.
That was her purpose.
Yeah.
for her.
And so she lost that.
Yeah.
That's what I think people don't really realize either, is that it all ended.
And our justice system never stops to think about the impact of that when one person in a family goes to prison, the whole family goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a disruption to the entire family. And you got to love, and I said this the other day to a friend of mine, I said, but listen, there's a purpose for haters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Haters have to hate. That's their job.
That
That's
is,
their purpose in
Yeah.
life.
That is.
So they have a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, but your purpose is to make sure that a hater never strips you of your joy and your peace.
Yes.
And so, you've got the haters out there that would say, well, they got what they deserved. They're in that 1%, they're Trump devotees, they're MAGA maggots, whatever.
Yeah.
You had all of that, and we still get that.
I bet.
We still
And
get
as
it.
I said, though, I was in prison with many, many women, and I saw many women come, many women go, and I don't think there is a woman in there that would turn down a pardon from any president.
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you can
And
say
I
the
can say
same
the
thing.
exact
And I'm
same
sure you
word.
could ask 158 people that are currently incarcerated, 158,000 people that are currently incarcerated. Not one will turn down a pardon. I don't care who it's from.
You are so right. It was
Right.
like, I remember Travis Kelce said like, it was an honor for like the president to be in a building where he was playing or something. And people just ripped him apart. And
Yeah.
and he's like, I would say that about any president. It's the president of our
Because
country.
Travis was raised right.
Yeah.
He was raised correctly.
Yes, it
You know,
doesn't matter. There's just this level of respect.
Could you?
And it-
Yes.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
regardless of what side of the fence you fall on, this is the president of our country.
Yeah.
And when
And
President
4
Biden,
years from now, whoever that president is, that will be the president.
and you have to
will
get
respect.
behind that president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in order for us to succeed as a whole, as a one people,
Yeah.
we have to come together for the common good of
Yeah.
the nation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't have to like President Trump.
No,
you don't have to like
totally.
President Biden or Obama, but you have to respect
I agree.
that they are the president of the United States.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. Because
Yeah.
it's not changing.
No, it's not changing.
Here's the thing. If you don't like, and this was the irony of it, my mother is a prime example of this. My mother had never voted until President Trump's first term.
Really?
And she called us, she said, I'm going to vote. And I said, okay. I said, you've never voted before. She said, but I'm going to vote before I die.
Yeah.
And
So
that
I
was her
like,
first vote.
it's
And that was her
crazy,
first
but-
vote. And
Yeah.
I said, well, why are you voting for President Trump? Because I'm always big on like, what is your motive? What is,
Right.
and I would do that with our kids,
Yeah.
because some of them would teeter back and forth about what they believed in. And this one was a little bit more liberal than this one was and whatever. And I said, well, why do you believe that way? And we would have
Conversation.
we would have those conversations when they were
important.
younger.
Yeah.
And I said it to my mother, and she said, well, I just like him, and that's what I'm going to vote for. And so I remember going with her, standing in line, letting her vote for that first time. And Savannah was right there because
Yeah.
that was important for Savannah to know that her grandmother had taken that initiative to go and vote.
Right.
And it wasn't even about who
It
she was
wasn't who
voting
she was
for,
voting for, it
just
was the fact that she was voting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Savannah
Yeah.
thought that was a very liberating time.
So I think it's what you were saying is that so many people have an opinion and then
And
you
that-
hear it, they don't even vote.
And my mother would always,
Yes.
my
Yeah.
mother would always say, "Can you believe that's the sorriest excuse for a president?" I said, "You don't get to say that. You didn't. You had an option to
not
vote, and you
exercising
did
your
not.
right.
That's
it.
right.
That's
That's
it.
right.
That's it.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
and I feel like because of so many people feel, like they've been wrongfully accused and or unfairly treated by the system. Do you feel like a sense of responsibility now to like speak up and advocate for?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do
Absolutely.
every day.
Yeah.
I do every day. I work since I have left. I've gotten 38 men home under the First Step Act that President Trump initiated in 2018, which was passed bipartisan. But during the Biden administration, that was not upheld. So
Yeah.
these men and women could have already been gone.
Wow.
They could have already been home. And so, Kaitlyn, I want you to think about that. If you had been pulled over and you went to jail because of you didn't have your license on,
Right.
or insurance or whatever, when you were there, do you want to be held 1 minute longer than you should?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So imagine these men and women that are incarcerated in federal prison that under the First Step Act, that if you're a nonviolent first-time offender, you qualify to reduce your sentence up to 50%.
Yeah.
Don't you want to take advantage of that?
Yes.
That's the law.
Yeah.
But the Bureau of Prisons was not doing it
Yeah.
because the union was controlling the Bureau of Prisons. So the union needs more people to pay the fees to be a union member. So the more people that are incarcerated, the Bureau has to hire more people, more staff members, which become union members who are paying members. So I say it's the modern day slave trade.
Yeah.
That's what I truly believe about it. But, I've brought 38 men home. I'm working on, one for Julie right now. And it's just correcting the First Step Act. And I'm so grateful and blessed to be working with the new director of the Bureau of Prisons, Billy Marshall, and Josh Smith, who's the deputy director, and Rick Stover, who's over FSA. And they're getting it right.
Yeah.
You know, I take these files to them and I say, I've calculated this. This is not right. He should have been given Second Chance Act. It should have been stacked on his First Step Act. So I go through the files and I calculate their numbers. And I could go in that phone right now and show you. I got a message last night from a mother that said, if it were not for you, my son would not be home for Thanksgiving.
Wow. That's important work.
It's, you know, and they're like, I thank you so much if it wasn't for you. And I said, no, it's not me. It's God.
Yeah.
I said, God is just using me to do what he knows needs to be done.
Wow.
And so I'm grateful for my purpose. I go to bed every night with a purpose. I wake up with a purpose. And I now truly can say that I have a purpose-driven life.
And is that going to be included in like, because you're doing a Lifetime special. Have you already done this?
We've done the Lifetime special,
Okay.
but now the reality show starts back.
Okay.
So
So
it
will
will
that be
cover that.
incorporated into
It will
that?
cover
Okay.
Yes.
That's, because now you have the platform to, like, it must feel so good that you're like, I get to go do these interviews. I get to like have my voice. I get to help people now from what I've been through.
I'm doing, I have two shows. I have one that's called The Todd Father that encompasses all of the young men that I worked with while in prison and that I mentored. And then I have an animated series that I'm doing.
Cool.
That's regarding what I call all the ass clowns that I dealt with there at FPC Pensacola.
And then we have Chrisley Confessions 2.0, you know, and that is our way to be able to bring people. I was able to bring someone that I was incarcerated with, and she was on the podcast.
Wait, cool.
So it was,
so it's a podcast.
yeah, it was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, Chrisley Confessions 2.0 has actually done very, very well. It's
Yeah. And
it goes
it's-
between number 1 and number 2.
And it's given us
every week.
our a voice, another avenue
Yeah.
to have our voice heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So you guys are busy.
Yeah.
We are. We are. I mean, I was saying to, you know, the young lady that works with you this morning, I said, we have a crazy day today because we're leaving. We've got 2 more interviews after this, and then we're leaving to go to Alabama for Grayson because it's Parents Weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that
we're
will be
going for
awesome.
that,
Yeah.
and so
How
it's going to
fun.
be. It'll really be our first all family trip
Yeah,
because
everyone's
all
going.
of us are going for him.
Yeah.
And so you know, it's a good life.
Yeah.
It's a good life.
Do people really like let you be a family when they see you out in public or no?
But that's okay because we signed up for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that.
And I feel like that we owe you that picture.
Oh, that's
We,
nice.
you know, we owe you that picture. We owe you that hello, how are you?
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, and you're kind people.
And our children are going to feed off of our energy.
Yes.
right.
And, you know, Savannah has said to me several times, like when we're doing press and, you know that you do 15 outlets a day, you know,
Yeah.
when you're in New York and you're running from one location to the next. And Savannah would be like right behind me and she'd go, RBF. RBF.
Oh,
But she'd be squeezing me so hard. She'd say, RBF. And I go, and
Hard. It's hard.
it is. It's hard to smile all day long.
Yeah, and if you're not, they'll get you. And
Right.
You're
And,
looking
you know,
miserable.
one time
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're like,
Right. And then you'll get somebody writing, oh, Julie has just lost the light in her eyes.
Oh,
There's just
gosh.
you can just see that it's just empty.
Yeah, they'll find anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's wild.
where do you come from, lady? I mean, you know, one tried to come from Savannah the other day, and again, you can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Call me whatever you want to. Just spell it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you come for one of my kids,
Oh gosh. I
I
can't
mean,
even
I
imagine.
lose all education.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I will drag you. And I've tried so hard to be good, Kaitlyn, since
You
I've
don't have
come
to.
home. But, you know, you come for my daughter.
Yeah.
And, you know, it said, and right in an interview when we did the whole press conference, you know, it was said that, you know, Savannah, you know, it's been rumored that Savannah paid $1 million apiece for the pardons and that she, you know, maybe slept with people to get the pardons.
Oh, my.
And I said, my daughter has too much class for that. That's shit that I would do.
Yeah.
So,
great
you know, I raised her better
Yeah,
than that.
yeah.
You know, do as I say, not as I've done. But, you know, it is disheartening at times.
Yeah.
Because I know what's in my heart. Mm-hmm. I know what my children have in their hearts. And I know who I'm married to. And when you have that safe place and that partner that gives you that safe landing, that's when you truly flourish in your life.
Yeah.
Because the chains come off. You know, you're free to be who you are and do what you want to do and to become what you're going to be great at.
Yeah.
And I look at so many of these younger people. You know, I remember Colton that you're friends with,
Yeah.
you know, because I remember meeting him the first time. It was in Vegas. And he and Savannah were like,
They went to an event.
To the what is the
Country Music
Country
Awards.
Music Awards there in Vegas.
Yes.
And here we were thinking that they were a couple, and I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have the best looking grandkids. This is gonna be amazing. And I never knew that Colton was gay.
I don't know if Colton knew that at the time.
Savannah knew, but never told us.
Oh,
and when
funny.
Colton came out, I said, oh my God. And I said, did you know this? She said, yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why didn't you tell
She's
us?
like,
She said, because we were
friends.
friends and that wasn't y'all's business. And I remember her saying this, that wasn't your business.
Funny.
And now, you know, because I follow him on Instagram
Yeah.
and I watch him with their baby.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll flip it over to Savannah and I said, look how he's kind of like stepped into his own.
Yeah.
Totally.
I said, he's got his own purpose-driven life.
Yes.
I looked at Savannah and him, and all I could think of was beautiful grandchildren.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is
Two
the genetic
beautiful
lottery.
humans, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
genetic lottery. This
Yeah.
is going to work out great. And now I look at it and say, but that was what I wanted.
Yeah.
That was not what he wanted, and that's not what Savannah wanted.
Right.
And it took me a minute, and I remember Judy and I talking. I said, she knew all along. And she goes, Judy, do you remember what you said to me that day? She goes, but you should be proud of our daughter that she was not putting his business out there.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, that's my daughter. You know, when it finally
You're right.
kicked in, and I wasn't making it about me feeling betrayed that I wasn't going to have these beautiful grandkids. I was like, yeah, that was my daughter that did that. So, you know, I think that we have to have open, honest conversations.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with you.
Exactly.
I can still love you, Kaitlyn,
Yeah.
even though I don't agree with you wearing the hat and at 80 degrees outside. I can still love you. I can still love you because you live differently or because you chose to love differently. And
Yeah.
do you really choose to love differently?
Yeah.
I think you love what you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
wonderful is that to be able to be in a life to where God allows us to feel love.
Yeah.
And then how lucky are you that you feel love for someone that reciprocates that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that.
Yeah.
I have been blessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I try to stop someone or prevent someone from feeling that way?
I wish more people were like that.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's more people like that than what we think.
I agree.
I
I do
just
agree with
think
that.
that it's not cool to say it.
Yep, and I always say the hate is so much louder. Like you see it
Yeah.
more, you hear it more.
But
the
remember,
love is
you know, I hear that, but I need you to remember this. If you take nothing from this podcast, remember this.
Okay.
You can't hear a song on your radio until you turn it up. So unless you turn the hate up to hear it, it's not going to affect you.
I like that.
So
I like
we
that a
don't
lot.
turn up the hate.
Yeah. It's so important what you're saying. It really is. And I'm just so grateful that you guys even came today. I know you're so busy. And
Well, we're grateful that you invited
grateful
us.
that
So
you
we
invited
thank
us.
you so much
no,
for it.
thank you guys.
Yes.
That was a really I love hearing both of you speak.
Thank you so much.
I'm
Well,
like, there is a reason you do have a microphone. You're both very good at it. And
thank you very much, and we're blessed to be here.
Thank you. And I want you guys to tell everybody where they can find your shows and podcasts and everything.
Yes, Chrisley Confessions 2.0, wherever you get your podcast.
Yep.
Yep.
And
then the reality show is on Lifetime.
yeah, it's so great that you're
Chrisley's
still
back to
going.
reality.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so entertaining. It's so
And
good.
then I have a book that's coming out soon.
When?
So probably spring of next year.
Oh, do you know what it's called yet?
It's not titled yet, and I
Okay.
keep tossing back the titles, to decide, which one I'm going to go with. And then, my bitchy side comes out, and then I'm like, one day, if I'm in that bitch mode, then it's going to be this title. And then if I'm trying to live by the Lord's word, then it's going to be this one. So it really just depends on where a hater takes me the day that I decide what it's going to be.
That's fair. I mean, you have daughters, so I can say this, but I'm like, it really depends on where I'm at in my cycle.
Well, I say that myself. I mean, Savannah used to say, she'd say, Julie would come and say, don't with her today.
Yeah.
Today's not the day. And I said, why? She goes, Todd, her friend's here. And I said, yeah, well, so is mine. So is mine. I'm not dealing with that shit. Y'all been doing this for your whole life. You've had it forever. Get used to it.
Yeah, we don't. It's
No,
like you would think.
no, exactly.
You would think, I'd be like,
From someone who's never had one.
That's amazing. Well, thank you again.
Thank you
guys.
so
you.
much.